Ken Trahan at the Pontchartrain Center in Kenner, where the LHSAA State Volleyball Championships are taking place. And that in itself is something really good to mention, because here we are in November and there are championships taking place on a statewide level. Visiting with Executive Director Eddie Bonine of the LHSAA. And Eddie, first of all, I'll start there because clearly this was something that a lot of people doubted could happen. It's happening. The season has gone successfully. Very few distractions and issues, so you have to feel good to get to this point with volleyball.
We do, and I think that it's taken a lot of time, patience, by the association and our executive committee and staff, because the families and athletes were anxious, so we let them have that anxiety to work. But we couldn't be here today if it wasn't for the parents, the students, the coaches, the athletic sports and medicine people, athletic trainers, the medical personnel in our regions, and the administration all the way to the top. They really wanted this to happen. They've proven that. But they've also been able to manage to get their schools back in order with some in-person learning, but other multiple educational platforms, which is what this is all about. We're an education-based association, so we want to make sure that all those pieces are falling into place. And here we are. That's our first championship of, I'm hoping, many this year as scheduled, and only time will tell. But we've worked the process that was put in place for us. We've been good neighbors. We've been good citizens in cooperating with what the governor and others have put forward for us to do, and we've made it work. And kudos to the membership for getting it done.
Swimming is right behind.
Swimming, well, cross country's up. And then swimming, yes. Once I'm completed here, then staff's already on their way to Natchitoches, where we have state cross country, which Northwestern State does an incredible job for hosting it for us. And normally I'd come back this way and then head to Lake Charles, but because of the lodging and food situation down there, or lack thereof at the moment, while they're still trying to repair themselves from the storms, I'll go turn around and I'll go straight to Shreveport for state swimming as well up there in working with Shreveport Bossier.
Cross country, not as difficult because of the very nature of the sport. That's gone off without a hitch all season long.
We've been good, and you know what? Right now, we've had athletes, as you know, and you followed in football, volleyball, already with basketball. We've had incidents of COVID and how it's being handled with whether it be a positive test or contact tracing or combination thereof is affecting some schools and respective programs at this point. But when it comes down to cross country, swimming, they've had very few, and when it comes to getting those off and running, I'll put my director of cross country, Mr. Adam McDowell, up against anybody when it comes to running these events. And then of course Michael Federico does an incredible job with his sports assigned, and his next up is with swimming. But also those two sports have really good communities. I call them actual sport communities with those sports. Swimming specifically, they get a lot of lay people that help. They like to do that. To do that as on a side job if you're working the club swimming stuff. So those have done a great job. No, we have had nothing at this point. And when we shoot the gun and they take off, man, it's let's go. We're not worried about COVID.
Everybody always wants to talk about football, and of course, that's still going to be in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. You have made that decision December 26th, 27th, and 28th. And knowing that there will be some restrictions, you're going forward with that. Was there ever any serious consideration to moving the football elsewhere? Well,
there was consideration. Whether it was serious, I would say yes, but to a certain degree, depending upon the meter of seriousness, because we, in conversations with Alan Freeman, who's a colleague, a friend, and also, Alan as manages the company that manages the Superdome, hey, we want you to come here if we can, but we don't have limitations. So if I were you, I'd try to find a plan B. Or a plan C, which could very well be in your primary plan, depending. Things that they've done an incredible job. I say they, meaning the management team of the Mercedes Superdome, in satisfying the needs necessary for the New Orleans Saints to play there, and working collaboratively with the local government there as well. So they're making strides. And as you know, with the program in place, we're not sure what the attendance would be, but if we're going to follow the same protocol that the Saints have in place and that SMG is using now to run those. We're good with anything they want us to do. We're going to do that. And depending on what at that point when we get to the threshold of what the attendance numbers are, we're going to do that as well. But what it came down to was I kept getting feedback from individuals that the year of Katrina, when the game was played outdoors in Shreveport, as you know, at the bowl up there, cold, windy, you never know what the weather's going to be. versus the experience of being in a Superdome. And you've been covering it for years, and I've had the privilege now of going on my 6th year to see the experience, to see the faces of those young athletes when they walk into the dome on those days that they normally would practice. I get goosebumps. It's cool for them. And I didn't want that to be in effect, because some of these athletes, if not the majority of them, Kim, didn't have baseball, track, the rest of their basketball season, powerlifting. They lost that in the spring. I remembered that not only in my mind but my heart, and how that felt by not having that. That if anything will leave us, we're going to have an opportunity to try to keep the experience as good as possible. Love to have fans. Need to have the fans. That's part of it. I get it. But if we can't, we're still going to do what we can to make sure the kids have a great experience.
The Tulane experience in football was a good one last year, but all the others, frankly, were not really that way on the select side. Therefore, it really is best to have everybody together in one great facility. And that's going to happen this year for the first time in a couple of years, obviously. That said, 9 different games, 9 different ticketed events, correct?
That is correct. That's going to be part of the process. As we're doing here, the games are played. They buy a ticket. We have to clean the facility out. We go through a process of sanitization, and we bring the next group in. So you'll probably see once we get to the format, the 3 games per day, there's probably going to be about 4 hours between games instead of the 3.5. We haven't always used the 3.5, but we have 45 minutes built in for each team to warm up. But we're going to have the ability. We're going to do the same thing. The fans will move out, and we'll bring the next group of fans in. So we're going to be using the same process with single game tickets down there for that as well.
You hope it's not an inevitability, but if there is a COVID issue in the playoffs, you simply remove that team and advance the other team and move on, correct?
And we'll take the response. The schools have been practicing the COVID-related mitigation measures since June. They've been doing the contact tracing. They've been doing the isolation of those that feel as though potentially they had contact with COVID, or they've actually tested positive for COVID. You know the process. They've all been doing that. And when it gets to the point that they can't move forward in cooperation with their local regional medical expert, yes, sir. They remove, and we move the next team on in the playoff.
It was basketball last year where we first encountered this pandemic and had to shut down the fans in Lake Charles. And basketball is just about to start up now. What provisions are in place with that sport?
Well, the winter sport provisions are going to be just as strenuous as we've had for football. And actually, the experts are telling us that there's going to probably be more cases, believe it or not, of COVID in basketball than we had in football. Because there's more contact, if you will. It's hard to believe, but you had a collision and contact, but touching each other, the sweat, I mean, just the whole thing.
Without equipment on.
Yeah, without equipment on, exactly. And that's going to be something that we're going to work through. But Ms. Hoyt has done an incredible job overseeing the basketball piece, and the coaches get it. Coaches, when all the athletes when on the bench, are going to have to wear the mask. All the coaches, when they're on the sidelines, are wearing the mask. Athletes can wear the mask or don't have to, whatever they're comfortable doing while they're playing. The officials can wear the mask or not, okay? But what you did mention, which I know is a sport dear to your heart, is what's wrestling going to look like?
That was next and last. Go ahead. They're already wrestling this year. I've actually written about some of the dual meets.
They are, and I think of any sport that's prepared for potential virus that have left, dealing with the MRSA and all the other things they do. I think that sport's probably the cleanliest and cleanest sport, if you will, with not only the equipment that they use and how they do it. So maybe we're worrying a little bit about something that may not be as bad, but just thinking about the sport. And I said before, gosh, these have given me gray hair at this point, no matter what. I can't wait to see what wrestling might do for us. But maybe that's a sport that surprises us, and they're not as much as what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, you've got soccer, you've got baseball, softball, still on the horizon, among others, and you just take it one day at a time, basically, and try to treat each one individually.
And I used to use that mantra, one day at a time, but with COVID, it's been about an hour at a time. Ken Trahan, Eric Hell, that works for us in our coaches association, he'll walk into my door and he'll look at me and say, guess what? I
Lost another one.
Exactly. We had so it could be hour to hour, but gosh, I can't speak enough about the job that the coaches, the athletes, our sports medicine personnel, the medical experts, and the medical experts have been taking it on the chin too, because then all of a sudden they're involved in the how many athletes or all the athletes. They're releasing those that they've seen back. The other 14 are having to be released by ladies and gentlemen honor coming back after the 14 days. The 14 days starts different for some. It doesn't always start on a Monday. It could start on a Thursday. It could start on a Wednesday. It just depends on when they were notified and how the process has gone through. It's driving the coaches and the sports medicine people crazy. But it's what we're doing right now. But I truly believe that the whole effort has got us to where we sit here today with all of those individuals and all of our sports. We wouldn't be having the championships here today as our first. And I truly believe that as we move forward going into the Superdome, it's going to lay the groundwork for what we're going to potentially see with our winter sports. But I know that Ms. Hoyt has also conveyed to me that we've already had some teams that have participated in jamborees or scrimmages that they've had athletes get positive. They've had to pull them out for the next 2 weeks. They've canceled their own jamboree or scrimmage coming up. You probably know that as well. Yep. So it's going on right now. We're good because at the end of the day, and people were banging on me, including yourself in a kind way, have you decided on minimum number of games yet? Have you decided? Well, we felt as though we displayed the patience, and I thought the timing is good now to see how many schools we had that were going to be at a minimum number that we knew we could get the bulk. And the report that I gave to the executive committee and the media the other day was that we have only 10 schools that have only played 3 games with the 4-game minimum being necessary to qualify. So that's quick math, that's cowboy math. 90% of our schools have played 4 or more to get to the week that we are now. And I think that plan is what we're going to also probably implement for basketball. We're going to wait and see how it goes, how many games are being played. I don't see anybody getting their full 34, 35 games in. And not everybody's going to be able to potentially play all their district games. You know, we waived the district champion piece, and then we have sports that in basketball specifically, you get points for being the district champ. All of that stuff's on the table, Ken. We're going to deal with it as it comes around.
Keep up the good work, my friend.
And thank you, and I want to thank you and all you do for high school sports in the state of Louisiana for years. And we appreciate what you do and the collaborative effort you work with us and what we do.
Appreciate it, Eddie. Thank you.
Thank you.